What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and got a couple things to talk about today. The primary reason for this video is going to be some of our off-season stuff, draft free agency kind of stuff, right? So we're going to get into that into a minute. Before I do, I want to explain to you how I'm going to go through this off-season because, it's going to be very much a learning period for me, because I'm going to be, getting more into free agency and the draft than I ever have. But I'll get to that in just a second. Before I get to that, I do want to mention a couple other things. So first and foremost, I'd like to say that, I of course watched those videos of, Mike McDaniel talking to Tua and stuff like that. And I got to say, man, for me, it's the first time in a long time that, I just genuinely felt good about something regarding the Dolphins, right? Like, even though I am cautiously optimistic about, this whole thing or whatever, and whether or not it'll work, whether or not in a few years it will be where we want to be, right? Consistently making it to the playoffs and, have a good, well-rounded team and, a good organization and stuff like that. And competing for division titles, AFC championships, and the Super Bowl, right? So, hopefully that's the case, but it does still have to all play out. But, it's just good I love his personality, right? Like, he's a really chill, kick back kind of dude, but I feel like he does have the ability to relate to these guys. When he was talking to Tua, calling him bro and stuff like that. Like, I love it. I love it. I love it. So, again, super excited about Mike McDaniel and 100% on that train, and let's ride with it, man. And hopefully it does succeed. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing I wanted to mention are there are some updates to the Dolphins coaching staff. The first being that, we are retaining Danny Crossman, our special teams coordinator, which, I mean, I guess maybe if there wasn't anybody better that they could have gotten, sure, but our special teams was kind of meh at best last year. And that's probably being kind of nice, if we're being honest. So, it's whatever, but at the same time, continuity and stuff. And honestly, with the way that the rest of the coaching staff is shaping up at this point, it's looking pretty solid. Again, because I don't mind if they keep the defensive side intact, as long as they keep doing what was working the past 2 years, right? So as long as they don't really if they're not going to make wholesale changes to the staff, then don't make wholesale changes to the scheme and stuff, right? You feel me on that? So I'm fine with that. There is still a chance that Vic Fangio could end up coming in, although that hasn't happened yet, but we will keep an eye on that. There is word that Gerald Alexander went to interview for a defensive coordinator job with the Jags. So hopefully he does not take that job, or they don't offer it to him or whatever. Not that he's not deserving. He definitely is. But I'm being a little selfish here as a Dolphins fan, because I do not want to lose Gerald Alexander. He is our secondaries coach, right? And that was, certainly a bright spot on this team in general, especially when you look at the young safeties, right, who are developing into what look like to be, up-and-coming stars. At least Javon Holland is a star, and Brandon Jones is, a really good pairing. Maybe not quite on the star status as Holland, but pretty damn good pairing. And then obviously, love Xavier Howard. I think Byron Jones is overrated, but still, a solid corner. And certainly it's similar, I guess, to how you can say Brandon Jones is a solid pairing with Javon Holland. I'd say Byron Jones. The Joneses seem to be the solid pairing guys with the other one. As long as they have that lead guy, they're pretty good, and you can work with it. The problem with those two guys, the corners, is they're expensive, right? So, but anyway, so Gerald Alexander, I haven't seen anything that he's accepted or left yet, so hopefully we do retain him. The other big part, though, and I do think this is a pretty big addition to the Dolphins coaching staff, and it's on the offensive side. It's a guy that Mike McDaniel worked with in San Francisco. I'm going to give you a little bit of his background really quick, but John Embry. So John Embry is coming over, and he is going to be an assistant head coach and our tight ends coach. And I think that's phenomenal. Obviously, he just worked with Kittle there in San Francisco, right? So obviously, Kittle's phenomenal. I do hope that they keep Mike Gesicki, and I would love to see them work with Mike Gesicki, right? I would love to see what a respected and experienced tight ends coach and a successful tight ends coach can get out of Mike Gesicki, especially with a head coach like Mike McDaniel, who at least theoretically will use him a lot more and and properly in this. They also, having a receiving tight end like Mike Gesicki or like a Kittle is pretty big for them. So I would love to see that. Obviously, that still has to play out. But let me give you a little bit of his background really quick. He was a player from 87 to 90. Although in a couple of these seasons, his last two seasons in 89 and 90, he was either offseason and or practice squad member only. But for the majority of his career, for the first 2 years of his career, rather, from 87 to 88, he played for the Rams. Let's see, what was he? I would assume a tight end because that's what he teaches. But let's see. Hold on. Playing career. Why doesn't it say what he does? I'm looking at Wikipedia right now. Why does it? Let's see. Why doesn't it say what he was? This is ridiculous. Anyway, whatever. So it doesn't matter. He played for the Rams, then he played for the Seahawks for a year in 89, Broncos in 90. And then in 91, so he went pretty much straight from that to a coach. He did start off in college and he did bounce around. He actually has a little bit of time. He has 1 year at a high school, but he's got several years at different colleges, including UCLA, which I'll get to in just a second. And then of course he's got, several years in the league as well. So he has bounced around. He's been to different places, different organizations. And like I said, for a coach, it's a little bit opposite for a player and a coach. A player, you generally would rather them stay in a single place because that means that they were good enough to stay in a single place, right? And they weren't constantly looked at as not good enough to make this team. Oh, by the way, he's also worked with Tony Gonzalez, Jordan Cameron, Mercedes Lewis, just because I'm notable players coached. Christian Foria, Matt Lepsis, Daniel Graham, Chris Cooley, by the way. Anyway, so so he started off in 1991 as a volunteer coach, and he's worked in some different positions as well, although mostly as a tight ends coach. He was a head coach, actually, too, for a bit. Anyway, so 1991, volunteer coach at Colorado. Then he went to Douglas County High School in 92 as a wide receivers coach and tight ends. Then he went back to Colorado as a tight ends coach from 93 to 94. Stayed in Colorado, but from 95 to 98, he switched to defensive ends, which I find to be interesting. Although sometimes when how you see players that will like change positions or even change sides of the ball, I think tight end and defensive end are often not dissimilar enough that they could make that, right? So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is for a coach to have to coach defensive ends, tight ends, they're not that different. And then of course he's obviously got, as per the side of the ball. But anyway, whatever. When I say different, I just mean more like body type and physical skill set, by the way. I don't mean like, techniques and fundamental, like, just techniques and whatever. Anyway, I think you get the idea. So, let's see. And then from 01 to 02, 99, from 99 to 2000, he went back to being the Colorado tight ends coach. Stayed in Colorado from 01 to 02 as wide receivers and kicking coach. So has a little bit of special teams experience as well. 03, he then went to UCLA as an assistant head coach and a wide receivers coach. UCLA from 04 to 05, assistant head coach and tight ends coach. Then He broke into the NFL in '06. From '06 to '08, he was the tight ends coach for the KC Chiefs. In 2010, the Redskins, because they were still the Skins then, tight ends coach for them. From 11 to 12, he went back to Colorado as their head coach. Okay, so you like it, and this dude is probably, when you look at his resume, he looks like he probably is on the rise, and probably will at some point over the next couple cycles get an opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL, right? So, look out for that. So the reason why that is relevant is because, maybe next year or the year after, we might end up having to replace this guy if he ends up, going off somewhere to be a head coach at another team. Anyway, in 13, he was the tight ends coach for the Browns. 14 to 16, tight ends coach for the Bucks. And then from 17 to 21, the San Francisco 49ers tight ends coach and assistant head coach. So there you have it. That is John Embry. Those are the updates as well to, the coaching staff, all of the different things, including Gerald Alexander, and then obviously a little tidbit on Mike McDaniel and some of that other stuff. So anyway, the point of this video, that was the first 11 minutes of it. So I'm kind of combining things here, though. I suppose I could have possibly broke it up, but I figured I'd put it all in one. The actual reason for this video, though, now that I've gotten past that stuff, is because I am, it's starting to get to off-season time. For us, it's for sure off-season. I mean, we got the Super Bowl this weekend, and then it's officially off-season for everybody, right? But, draft and free agency time. So the first thing I want to do is I want to explain to you guys really quick how I intend to go through this time period, because as you guys know, and if you don't know, I never played football. Like, I played a lot of backyard football in my neighborhood and stuff with friends out at the field and, at the fields and in the park and stuff like that. But I never played like Pee Wee. I never, played for my school or anything like that, right? In middle or high school, didn't play for college, none of that, right? So I have no playing background. I have no coaching background. I have no scouting background or anything like that, right? So for me to do evaluations, scouting, and analysis, I'm very raw, and I still have a lot to learn. I don't know a lot about the fundamentals and techniques when it comes to drills and stuff that these guys have to do and what's right and stuff like that. So a lot of that's going to be a learning process to me. I'm still trying to learn more about the X's and O's. I'm learning more about the scouting process and all of that. So what I'm going to do is I don't think I'm going to, this year, I don't expect to make any big board of my own. I'm going to hopefully evolve into that next season. But this season, I will do like mini big boards for the individual positions when I do the position breakdown videos. And then hopefully I'll be able to build my knowledge enough going into next year. Hopefully I'm able to continue doing this next year. But if we get to that point, and I am, then I hopefully will be able to evolve it, right? And then maybe eventually piece it all together and do a big board. This season, this upcoming season too, I do intend to start actually watching more college football for that purpose. But for this off season, what I'm going to do, and actually what I'm going to do here in a minute, is I'm going to do the first draft big board. It's going to be an article that I'm going to go through on Bleacher Report. And it's from their scouting department. So it's just that. But I'm going to go through and as part of this learning process, because what I'm going to do in order to learn, part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all these different big boards. I'm going to go through articles. I'm going to do mock drafts, right? Different people's mock drafts. And I'm going to learn from it, and I'll do my own evaluations along the way. And then I'm obviously going to, because unfortunately, not only do I not have a background in those other things, but I don't have the resources available to me to get things like PFF. I can't even get subscriptions to the Miami Herald and Sun Sentinel. I can't afford those things. So, and I don't have access to like all 22 footage. And even if I did, like I said, I don't have backgrounds in those other things. So I don't necessarily know what is and isn't correct. Although I have been learning a great deal, especially from Reason. Shout out to him when he does his film breakdowns and stuff like that. So, I'm getting better at that stuff, but I'm still very raw and inexperienced. So what I thought I'd do, and it will actually also kind of kill two birds with one stone for me, not only will I be able to learn all through this process and grow and evolve as a content creator and as a football mind, but I will also then be able to make content because, again, as I'm about to do here in a minute, I'm about to pull up this article, and it is a big board, and it's going to be the first one I do. Now, this is Bleacher Reports, but as they come up, I'll give you the different ones from different places, different outlets, different sources, and I'll do the same thing with mock drafts and stuff. Now, we'll see. At some point, maybe later on in the offseason, maybe I'll do my own mock draft because I know they have those mock draft simulators. But I want to go through the offseason a little bit more and do a lot more research on different players and stuff before I do my own. But I may do my own mock draft at some point. That is TBD. We shall see. But having said all that now, that is my basic plan for it. So, let's go ahead now and get into this first one of the offseason, 2022 NFL Draft Big Board. It is Bleacher Report's scouting department and their post-Senior Bowl rankings. So this is obviously after the Senior Bowl, and let's see what they have to say. The Super Bowl may just be nearing, but NFL draft season is already in full swing. Last week, the East-West Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl highlighted some of the best talent in the incoming class. The two All-Star games are must-attend events for all 32 NFL teams as the start of the second phase of evaluation. And it'll also, too, will give you nice, and hopefully you guys will be able to learn along this process with me as well, but this will also be able to give you guys a lot of different perspectives that are out there, the experts and you know, analysts and stuff like that. And season breakdowns always take precedent. All-star performances are an important piece of the puzzle. Workouts of the combine and pro days are the final step before team boards are set for the 2022 draft at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Bleacher Report's fourth draft board took shape after a litany of underclassmen declared and analysts examined prospects at both our all-star events. Their department is composed of 5 people with extensive backgrounds in playing, coaching, and or covering the NFL and the draft. Nate Tice. Nate is a former college quarterback, NFL coach, and scout who provides breakdowns on Twitter. He can also be heard weekly, blah, blah, blah. Brandon Thorne is the author of Trench Warfare newsletter, which focuses exclusively on offensive and defensive line evaluation. He also contributes as an analyst for Establish the Run and serves as the scouting coordinator for OL Masterminds. So at least these guys do have some sort of background, right? So probably not a terrible set of guys to give you some information. Derek Klassen joined the team this year and contributes to Football Outsiders and Odds Checkers. He has spent years charting and evaluating NFL prospects, often on social media. Corey Giddings, I mean, obviously, most of these guys don't have any, like, experience with mainstream outlets, but I don't think that's necessarily a problem because mainstream media tends to suck in a lot of ways. But anyway, Corey Giddings. Corey has experience at multiple levels of football, both in coaching and playing evaluation. In recent years, he has worked with the Giants and teams in the Big Ten. And Brett Sobleski. Brett is an NFL analyst for Bleacher Report. He's covered the draft since 2004 for multiple outlets prior to his 8 seasons with Bleacher Report. And here's their grading scale. So 10, general talent, number 1 overall. 9.5 to 9.9, top 5. 9 to 9.4 is a top 10. 8.5 to 8.9, immediate impact prospect, first round. 8 to 8.4, year 1 starter, late first to second round. 7.5 to 7.9, potential impact player, second round. 7.0 to 7.4, high level backup, potential starter, third round. 6.5, 6.9, potential role player, fourth round. 6.0 to 6.4, high level developmental prospect, fifth round. 5.5, 5.9, backup, draftable, 6th or 7th round. 5.0 to 5.4, backup, undrafted free agent with roster potential. I actually really like this grading scale too, to be honest. Undrafted free agent, 4.0 to 4.9, developmental prospect. I love the gradients here and the detail. Undrafted free agent, 3 to 3.9, training camp body, undrafted free agent. The differentiation between the levels. Player grades were assigned by the following scouts: Tice, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and receiving tight ends. Thorne, blocking tight ends, offensive tackles, guards, and centers. Klassen, defensive linemen, edge rushers, and linebackers. And Giddings, cornerbacks, and safeties. All right. Now let's look at their top 200. Probably not going to focus too much. We're kind of just going to skim through it for the most part, right? But we are going to look at it. And because a lot of these guys, and especially too, as we go further through this process, we'll start, linking a lot of these prospects to the Dolphins and potential guys to bring in. So soon, because I am going to start doing my position by position breakdown. So we'll go through and I'll tell you guys, the positions that I think are the biggest area of need. Now, obviously, depending on what we do in free agency will determine what we do in the draft. But just off the top of my head real quick, I'd say that when you look at the roster, if I had to rattle it off really fast, I would say probably from greatest area of need to least greatest area of need, I would say position by position, it's probably something like offensive lineman, running back, then probably you could probably flip these two, either wide receiver or linebacker, particularly a middle linebacker. But it also kind of, we need a true Mike linebacker for sure, regardless of what the scheme is. And even if it ends up remaining the same, that hybrid, we definitely need a true Mike linebacker. But wide receiver, linebacker, probably next after that. Then I would say, what else is left? Then I would say probably defensive line, maybe leaning towards edge rusher. And then I would say probably tight end, although that kind of depends and that could move up if they don't keep Gesicki and or Smythe. So we'll see how that plays out. But as of right now with the roster as it stands, then tight end next, and then probably, safeties and corners rounding it out. Now, also that could move up depending on what happens with Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. So obviously it's a very fluid and evolving situation, but anyway, so let's go into it. So ties and grades were broken through roundtable discussions among the 4 scouts. So just a little bit there. And this is pretty quick. So obviously, as you can see, they list for you their top 200 players. So let's take a look at it. Now, again, Kayvon Thibodeau, I don't expect him to make it to we're picking at 29. So probably not even close to being able to get him or, a guy like Ikem Ekwonu. But these are two guys, edge rusher is not really something that we need. Although, again, that's another position that could move up if they don't sign Ogba to an extension. But let's say, because as of right now, we have the roster as is. So let's just go with that being our assumption, right? So that's why for me, edge rusher is a little bit more down the list as of right now. So because if we have Ogba and Phillips going into this upcoming season, I think that's phenomenal. And then especially because, again, a lot of our pressure and stuff does come from the safeties and from the linebackers and stuff like that. So based off of the scheme and how we do things. So you don't need to have like 4 or 5 edge rushers, in total, right? Having those 2 star guys at the top and then the guys that we have that are rotational guys, and with the way that we apply our pressure scheme, I think it's fine, right? As long as we don't lose Ogba. But if you were to be able to add a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau to that mix, we would just be absolutely fucking lethal. Although, now again, I don't expect him to get to us, but if we don't sign Ogba, then this would be the kind of guy you would want to be able to insert in there if you could get him. Anyway, and then obviously a couple of the top prospects on the offensive line, which for me right now is the top area of need. Although, as I've said, I would address that in free agency. I would spend a good amount of money to get at least one premier tackle, then probably another, solid, so Tua is expected to be our quarterback. So I would probably go spend a boatload of money on a premier right tackle because that's his blind side. And then I would get a serviceable, workable, maybe above average, but not super expensive left tackle. And then probably same thing when it comes to the center position, right? Because I personally would, but at least get 2 of those, at least fill 2 of those positions, both tackle positions and the center position. At least fill 2 of those in free agency, and then maybe you can get the third one in like the 2nd or 3rd or 4th round in the draft as a to be the other guy, right? So anyway, and then I would take, if I had it my way, I would take a running back, preferably Breece Hall as of right now, preferably Breece Hall. But, you know, you also have Kenneth Walker or Isaiah Spiller, all great options. I would take, now again, it also kind of depends on how the board falls on draft day, right? What positions have runs on them, right? And stuff like that. But right now, as it stands, I would like to see one of those running backs in the first round. So Ikem Ekwonu, Evan Neal, some of the top offensive linemen, probably not going to get to us. Drake London, wide receiver, that's up on my list right now. Probably not going to see him though either. Don't really need a safety, but if you were to add a Kyle Hamilton to that mix, I mean, but again though, like, and that's part of the reason why I don't want to see them do that is because that's one of the issues that I had with the regime over the past 3 years. And Noah Igbenogany is an example. Not only was he a reach and a developmental prospect who never should have been taken in the first round to begin with, and even Waddle's an example of this. They would double, triple, and quadruple down on areas of this roster where we already, at least theoretically and on paper, were, you know, full and deep. Now, obviously, with the wide receiver position in particular, it was a full room of like injury-prone motherfuckers, which we all knew going into it. But, you know, I would like to see, because again, for me, I believe wholeheartedly that a good GM, if he does things right, and especially if he navigates free agency well as well, if he's good at both of those things, that and the draft, he should be able to always get a good, healthy combination of best player available and position of need, almost no matter where you draft. And if you can't, then my philosophy is, like, if you're not confident in that whenever your pick comes around, my philosophy is trade back, get more swings, get more fucking times up at the fucking plate, right? So anyway, then you have George Karlaftis, edge rusher, Derek Stingley, cornerback, Tyler Linderbaum, interior offensive lineman out of Iowa, Jordan Davis, and Chris Olave, wide receiver, defensive line wide receiver, to round out their top 10. Then you have Charles Cross, offensive tackle. Like I said, I'm just going to kind of breeze through this, especially because it's not like there's really any like evaluations here, and 200 players, that would be kind of a long time to get through. So I am just going to kind of show this. I'll probably go through it in 10 player increments. As far as the visual perspective for you guys. So from 11 to 20, Charles Cross, offensive tackle, Aiden Hutchinson, edge, Ahmad Gardner, corner, Jamison Williams, wide receiver, Jahan Dotson, who's an intriguing guy for us. And an 8-6, maybe we could get him. Wide receiver, Kyer. See, and that's the thing, though. It depends on how the board falls. So maybe we could get a guy like a Jahan Dotson at the back end of the first round, and then maybe in the second round we could get one of those running backs that we want, right? Because, I mean, as per their big board, they don't even have a running back yet on this list. Kyer Elam, corner, Desmond Ridder, quarterback, Trent McDuffie. By the way, interesting, right? They don't have a lot of quarterbacks. That's the first one. Their first quarterback is Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. It's not a Howell. It's not a Willis, right? So interesting. Then Trent McDuffie. It's a corner. I wonder, is that OJ McDuffie's kid? That's interesting. I don't know. We obviously just seen Pat Surtain's kid, enter the league, right? He's a Denver Broncos. So anyway, Nakobe Dean, linebacker, is their 19th. And then Treylon Burks, also another intriguing guy for the Dolphins at wide receiver at 20. 21 to 30, you get Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Zion Johnson, interior offensive lineman, Devontae Wyatt, D-line, Logan Hall, D-line, David Ojabo, edge, Andrew Booth, corner, Kenneth Walker. Finally, you see a first running back at 27. They have an 8-1, so that's probably second round. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, honestly, if we could manage something like that, it just depends on how the board falls, and you can move things around a little bit. But I honestly, with Mike McDaniel being in here, and especially with the things that I know he's going to prioritize, I feel a lot better about it. Obviously, we still got to see how they play things and what moves they actually make. But I do feel a lot better going into free agency and the draft with him being the head coach than fucking Flores. Anyway, Waquan Brisker, safety out of Penn State. Devin Lloyd, linebacker out of Utah at 29. And then Christian Harris, linebacker from Bama at 30. I'll probably just do this for the top 50 maybe, and then fuck it. Let's just go through it. Bernard Raymond, offensive tackle from Central Michigan at 32. Justin Ross, by the way, wide receiver from Clemson at 31. I skipped him. Trevor Penning, 33, offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. Khalil Shakir, wide receiver, Boise State, 34. 35 is Alec Pierce, wide receiver, Cincinnati. 36, Darian Kendrick, corner from Georgia. Breece Hall, I love Breece Hall, 37. At 37, he's got a 7.9 grade, though, from them. Running back out of Iowa, Jermaine Johnson, edge out of Florida, 38. Kenyon Green, interior offensive lineman out of Texas A&M, is 39. George Pickens, wide receiver from Georgia, 40. Arnold Ebiketie, edge from Penn State, 41. Fidarian Mathis, defensive line out of Alabama, 42. 43 is John Mechie, wide receiver from Bama, 44. Kenny Pickett is at 44 on their list. Who was it that I just... Oh, Panthers, I think that it was the Panthers. I saw a headline today that the Panthers might be high on Kenny Pickett. They have him at 44, quarterback out of Pittsburgh. Trayvon Walker, defensive line out of Georgia at 45. Trey McBride, tight end out of Colorado State at 46. Tyler Algier, running back. He's the third running back on there. So they had, right, because they had Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall. Yeah, Isaiah Spiller hasn't come up yet. So BYU, Chad Muma, linebacker from Wyoming at 48. Drake Jackson, edge from USC at 49. Martin Emerson, corner from Mississippi State at 50. David Bell, wide receiver from Purdue, 51. 52 is Daniel Falele, offensive tackle, Minnesota. Jeremy Ruckert, tight end from Ohio State, 53. 54, Travis Jones, defensive line, Connecticut. 55 is Jalen Werdermeyer, tight end, Texas A&M. Majai Sanders at 56, edge from Cincinnati. Darian Beavers, linebacker from Cincinnati at 57. 58, Neil Farrell, D-line, LSU. 59 is Marquise Hayes, interior O-line, Oklahoma. Lectus Smith at 60, interior O-line from Virginia Tech. DeMarvin Leal, D-line from Texas A&M at 6'1". Rasheed Walker, OT, Penn State, 62. 63 is Kyron Williams, running back from Notre Dame. Still no Spiller. Did Spiller not, declare or something? Am I missing that? 64, Greg Dulcich, tight end, UCLA. Jerome Ford, running back from Cincinnati at 65. Javon Hailai, wide receiver, Coastal Carolina at 66. 67 is Wandale Robinson, wide receiver from Kentucky. Kobe Bryant, corner from Cincinnati at 68. Ed Ingram, interior offensive line from LSU at 69. 70 is Jamari Salyer, interior offensive line from Georgia. Josh Pascal, edge from Kentucky at 71. Roger McCreary, corner at Auburn from 72. 73, Cade Otton, tight end, Washington. 74, Matt Corral, quarterback from Ole Miss. 75, Damon Clark, linebacker, LSU. 76, Michael Clemens, edge at Texas A&M. 77, Darian Kennard, interior O-line, Kentucky. 78, Dylan Parnham, interior O-line, Memphis. 79 is Brandon Smith, linebacker from Penn State. See, and that's the thing is I know absolutely nothing about any of these guys at this point. Luke Godecki, interior offensive line from Central Michigan. But that's why, like I said, I mean, this offseason is going to be a very big learning process for me. And hopefully you guys can learn a lot too along the way with me, right? Honestly, I'm probably not going to get good at this, really good at this, for a few years at least. So this will probably be my standard going into each offseason. I'm just going to do deep, in-depth dives for, all of these prospects based off of all of the different information, and then it'll give me, you know, the different sources and the different experts and analysts, and give you all of their opinions, and it's a lot of different data points, right? So, and hopefully we can build our knowledge together, and we'll get better at it together. Anyway, 81 Luke Fortner, interior O-line, Kentucky. Kingsley Enagbare, 82. Perrion Winfrey, 83. Christian Watson, 84. Brian Cook, 85. Sky Moore, 86. Wide receiver. Cade Mays, interior O-line, 87. Nichols Petit Frere, offensive tackle, 88. Nick Bonito, edge, 89. Cameron Thomas, edge at 90. Malik Willis, all the way down at 91 for them, quarterback out of Liberty. Romeo Dubes, wide receiver, 92. Justin Schaefer, interior O-line, 93. Mikhail Wright, corner at 94. Isaiah Spiller all the way down at 95 for them. Now, obviously, this is a big board, so this is all, and he has a 7-1 grade, running back from Texas A&M. And, you know, obviously this is all the prospects, regardless of position, so that plays a part of it. Obviously, he would be, but that makes him like their 6th or something running back on this list, somewhere around there, somewhere between, they haven't been like somewhere between 5 and 7 for their running backs. Anyway, but, you know, like I said, depending on how things fall, maybe you can get a guy like that in the mid rounds, maybe a 3rd round for an Isaiah Spiller, and it just depends on how things fall, and then maybe you decide you want to take, you know, a wide receiver earlier on, or an offensive lineman, or a linebacker. Maybe there's a really good linebacker earlier on, because maybe, you know, offensive lineman and wide receiver, those positions have runs, right, early on, and maybe there's a really good linebacker that drops to the Dolphins. So Kyle Phillips, wide receiver, 96. Lewis Cine, safety, 97. Quay Walker, linebacker, 98. Sam Howell, all the way down at 99, quarterback. Leon O'Neal Jr., safety, 100. Max Mitchell, offensive tackle at 101. Sean Ryan, interior offensive line, 102. Cole Strange, interior offensive line, 103. 104, Sam Williams, edge. 105, Kyler Gordon, corner. 106, Carson Strong, quarterback. 107, Derek Deese, tight end. 108, Tyler Smith, offensive tackle. 109, Josh Jobe, cornerback. 110, Isaiah Likely, tight end. 111, Spencer Burford, offensive tackle. 112, Sincere. His name is Sincere McCormick, running back. 113, Ty Chandler, running back. 114, Kellen Deach, offensive tackle. 115, Obina Eze, offensive tackle. 116, Devontae Price, running back. 117, Bailey Zappe, quarterback. Zappe. 118, I was thinking Frank Zappa. I know it's a super old school reference. I mean, that's like even pretty much before my time, but you know, my parents obviously is where I got that, but I was thinking of Frank Zappa when I read this dude's name. Anyway, 118, Daxton Hill, safety. 119, Jake Ferguson, tight end. I wonder if he's related to Blake Ferguson and the other Ferguson brother that's also a long snapper in the NFL. Anyway, 120, Dijene Dixon, wide receiver. 121, Pierre Strong, running back. 122, Brian Asamoah, linebacker. 123, Jalen Petre, safety. 124, Jaden Peavy, D-line. 125, Channing Tyndall, linebacker. 126, Jalen Tolbert, wide receiver. By the way, I'll also do videos, especially if I can find you know, specific breakdowns from these analysts and stuff. I'll actually do in my position breakdowns, I'll give you, you know, some of these guys, some of these, you know, like ESPN or NFL.com or any of them, if they do, you know, individual big boards, then with actual like scouting reports for these guys, I'll try and find that stuff to include also in my positional breakdown videos so I can give you more information on these guys. Jalen Tolbert, wide receiver, 126. 127, Zacoby McClain, linebacker. 128, Zachary Carter, D-line. 129, Zamir White, running back. 130, Jelani Woods, tight end. 131, Boye Mafe, edge. 132, Jack Sanborn, linebacker. 133, John Ridgway, D-line. 134, Isaiah Thomas, edge. 135, Bubba Bolden, safety. Bubba Bolden, I've heard good things about him. He's way down here, huh? 136, James Cook, running back. 137, Haskell Garrett, D-line. 138, Tyler Batty, running back. 139, Nick Ford, interior O-line. 140, Mario Goodrich, corner. 141, Brian Robertson, running back. 142, Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver. 143, Smoke Monday. Dude's name is Smoke. Bro, getting some real interesting names these days, right? First of all, dude's last name is Monday. Smoke Monday, safety. 144, Jack Jones, corner. 145, Jermaine Waller, corner. 146, Terrell Bernard, linebacker. 147, Caleb Ellaby, quarterback. 148, Daniel Bellinger, tight end. 149, Charlie Kohler, tight end. 150, Hassan Haskins, running back. Interesting. 151, Samori Torrey, wide receiver. 152, Thayer Munford, interior O-line. 153, James Mpe, interior O-line. 154, Calvin Austin, wide receiver. 155, Tyreek Smith, edge. 156, Myron Tungavailoa Amosa, D-line. Interesting, right? 157, CJ Verdal, running back. 158, Rashad White, running back. 159, Caleb Evans, corner. 160, Dominique Robinson, edge. 161, Andrew Stuber, interior O-line. 162, Marcus Jones, corner. 163, Armani Rogers, tight end. 164, Lucas Krull, tight end. 165, Jalen Watson, safety. 166, Ellis Brooks, linebacker. 167, Jarrett Stearns, wide receiver. 168, Abraham Lucas, OT. 169, Austin Deculis, OT, offensive tackle. 170, Eric Izukanma, wide receiver. By the way, too, when I do my positional breakdowns, I'm probably going to do like, I don't know, maybe 10 prospects-ish for each of those. So those will be a lot shorter, but they'll be more in-depth analysis of the individual players. So, you know, again, I don't have a lot of experience at this, so it's going to be hard for me to really do, you know, a lot of digging on the mid to late round guys, especially because they're going to have very limited, generally speaking, very limited amounts of, you know, tape and highlights and things that I can pull up on the internet to, you know, evaluate them off of. Because when I do those individual breakdown videos for the different positions and, you know, give you scouting reports and analysis from the different experts, I am going to go through and, you know, before I make those videos, I'm going to, you know, watch as much film and highlights as I can on those individual players so I can try and put my eyes on them and give you a little bit of my perspective. So anyway, these big boards are going to be a little bit more, you know, generalized. As you can see, I'm just running through the list of guys. The individual position breakdowns are going to be more detailed. 171, Jarian Ely, running back. 172, Carson Wells, linebacker. 173, Jesse Lukita, edge. 174, Damian Pierce, running back. 175, EJ Perry, quarterback. 176, Otito Ogbanya, D-line. 177, Bo Melton, wide receiver. 178, Tariq Woolen, corner. 179, Mike Rose, linebacker. 180, James Mitchell, tight end. 181, Chris Paul, interior O-line. 182, Sean Jolly, corner. 183, D'Angelo Malone, edge. 184, Jack Cohn, quarterback. 185, Yusuf Corker, safety. 186, Keontae Ingram, running back. 187, Braxton Jones, offensive tackle. 188, Chase Lucas, corner. 189, Tariq Castro Fields, corner. 190, Zaquandre White, running back. 191, Ty Freifogel, wide receiver. 192, Cole Turner, tight end. 193, Alec Lindstrom, interior O-line. 194, Nick Zakelj, interior O-line. 195, DeMarco Jackson, linebacker. 196, Blaze Andrews, interior O-line. 197, Amare Barno, edge. 198, Reed Blankenship, safety. 199, Brock Purdy, quarterback. And 200 to round out their top 200 is Aaron Hansford, linebacker out of Texas A&M. So there you have it. By the way, I apologize to anybody if I fucked up their name. Sorry about that. I did my best. But anyway, there you have it. That is the NFL or Bleacher Report's big board. There's a lot there. I know it's just ended up being a long list of names. But look, this is the first bit of the discovery process for me going into this offseason. Because again, I didn't watch college last year. I'm going to start that this season. And I don't have a lot of background and experience. So this is the first time I'm even putting my eyes on a lot of the names of these prospects. And I would venture to guess that a lot of the fans are the same way. So like I said, hopefully this is going to be a good learning experience for you guys as well as me. So I hope you do join me for it. Some of these videos, like the big board videos, might be a little bit longer. Obviously, this also had 10 minutes of some other stuff at the beginning. But I can assure you that the other videos will be at the very least, they'll be the more in-depth version of this with actual scouting reports of individual players. And when it's the position by position videos, it'll probably be like 10 prospects, because after that it's gonna, somewhere between like 8 and 15 prospects, depending on the position and whatever, and how many guys I can actually get good information on, good scouting reports, as well as find like tape and things to watch myself. So anyway, with that, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot to get into, especially as we see how this team develops and takes shape under the new leadership of Mike McDaniel. So it's going to be a fun, exciting time. Make sure you join me for all of it. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm a prove it kind of guy. So I'm waiting to see what they actually put out there as a product, but I am intrigued, and I am 100% on board with Mike McDaniel and his vision for, this team going forward. And I'm pumped up for it. So let's get to it. Let's have a good time. Join me for it, and let's see how it goes. With that, I am going to wrap this up. Before I get out of here, make sure you check out the Rave On Sports App, the new fan-driven sports app for all of your sports. Whether it be basketball, baseball, football, college, whatever you like, they got it. And they are looking to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-play coverage, live chats with other fans and content creators like myself, while also providing you with an arena to dispute all of the terrible officiating. So make sure you look for the links to that in the description box. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro, as well as on Instagram at Dolphins_with_Dillon. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.
7-7. Miami wins it.